I think the biggest myth surrounding audits is that they have to be stressful. They don't have to be. If you're prepared for them, they're not. They're actually somewhat enjoyable. Audits are also a really good opportunity to evaluate your internal processes and your internal controls. So if you have the information ready beforehand, as you're going through the audit, you can take a step back and evaluate both of those things.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of It Depends, a podcast series brought to you by Hantzmon Wiebel. You know that if you've ever talked to an accountant, they've told you, well, it depends. This podcast series is for business owners, leaders, operators, accountants, or someone just wanting to learn more about the accounting industry. I'm your host, Clarissa Hoffman. Today, we are joined by Brittany Maynard, a partner in our auditing and accounting department. Thanks for joining us, Brittany.
Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I joined the firm 13 years ago, and I focus mainly on for-profit auditing and employee benefit plan auditing.
Well, today we're talking about a very important topic in the auditing world, and that is audit efficiency. Why is audit efficiency such an important topic for small business owners?
So we're seeing clients face tighter deadlines, tighter turnaround times, documentation requirements are increasing. So when we come in and do the audit, having all of those items in line, having them organized just makes our audit more efficient. We get out of your hair faster and you all can return to your everyday business and not fighting fires and doing audit tasks.
So for someone who maybe doesn't have an audit of their organization or might not otherwise be familiar, how would you define audit efficiency?
So audit efficiency is having all of your documents organized so that you're ready to go when we come in. We want to turn the audit around as fast as we can. We want there to be minimal disruptions, and we want you to be able to focus on your everyday job.
What are some of the biggest challenges that clients face in this area?
So one challenge that we see is fragmented data. So where is it stored? It can be in different folders, different applications, and our clients just don't know exactly where they need to get the information that they're looking for. So having it in one place that everyone has access to can be really beneficial. Another issue that we see is that there's no clear ownership of whose responsibility it is. So before the audit, it's a really good idea to assign those responsibilities for each section so everyone knows what they're responsible for and can be efficient in getting that information to us.
And as auditors, we divvy out the audit sections that our team members will work on. So really, our clients should be doing the same thing on their end.
Right. Another issue that we see is version control. So which version are we getting? If there's multiple people working on a spreadsheet, are we getting the most recently updated one? So having everyone using the same file is really important.
You've worked with a lot of clients over the years on improving audit efficiency. What are some common blind spots?
So a lot of times clients will assume that the information they need for an audit is just something that will come out of their system easily, and that's not always the case. And a lot of times they will think that they have enough time to pull it together when we're there. So getting that information ready and having it ready before we get there is really important to improve efficiency.
What is one myth or misconception?
I think the biggest myth surrounding audits is that they have to be stressful. They don't have to be. If you're prepared for them, they're not. They're actually somewhat enjoyable. Audits are also a really good opportunity to evaluate your internal processes and your internal controls. So if you have the information ready beforehand, as you're going through the audit, you can take a step back and evaluate both of those things.
So really, preparation is key.
Right. It's really the cornerstone of these audits.
So if there's a business owner listening today who wants to be more audit ready, what is your first recommendation?
The first thing you should do is look at last year's audit request list because it's likely going to be very similar. So take that list out, use it as a template or a guide, and go through and try to check off as many of those items or get those prepared in advance as you can.
What are a few small habits or best practices that clients could be implementing that would make a big difference over time?
Yeah, so the first thing is reconcile your accounts monthly. Don't wait until the end of the year or wait for us to be there to do that. And then keep all of the documentation for those reconciliations with them so that it's easily accessible when we come. And we spoke about this a little bit earlier, but assign ownership for each of those areas. So who's going to be in charge of cash? Who's going to be in charge of receivables? And make sure that they know that that's their responsibility and that they know what the timeline is. Lastly, I would say that it's important to begin utilizing any technology that you can. So look for cloud-based applications or just any way to automate your processes.
How can businesses set themselves up for long-term success, not just this year's audit?
Yeah. So Using each month as a mini audit is a good way to do that. So instead of waiting until the end of the year to reconcile everything, do it each month. And that means you're going to be ready for your audit. When the auditors come in, you're about 90% of the way there. You have the information you need. It's also a really good way to onboard or train new employees that you have. When you're doing it monthly, then it's not something that you have to teach annually.
What should management be thinking about now to stay ahead for the rest of the year?
So I think the important thing to think about is how can you use technology to help you. So using technology is going to allow you to pull a little bit of the manual process out, which is going to speed things up. It's going to provide information that probably has less errors, and it'll help your auditors feel more comfortable with the information that you are providing.
What trends do you see shaping audit efficiency in the next few years?
The first trend that we're seeing, obviously, is technology. So how can we use automation or AI in our audit, and how can our clients use it as well? One way we can do that is extracting data. Another way we can do that is flagging any inconsistencies that we see. A second trend that we're seeing is potentially auditing throughout the year. So is there an opportunity for us to come out during a non-busy time, maybe in the summer, and do some of the procedures that we would normally do in busy season? And that will take some of the stress out from that one time of year.
And alleviating that workload compression from the auditor's perspective is huge.
Absolutely.
If someone feels overwhelmed by the audit process, what would you tell them?
So our recommendation is just to start small. So pick one section, pick cash, and develop a process where you reconcile that monthly and document that process so that someone else can come along and do it if they need to. And once you gain momentum with cash, then pick a second section, pick receivables, and try to replicate that process. And eventually you'll have every section done and it won't feel so daunting anymore.
And finally, if listeners want to get ahead or need assistance, what's the next step for them?
So reach out to your audit partner and just schedule a mid-year conversation and say that you want to increase audit efficiency and kind of reduce that timeline. We'd be happy to have a conversation and give you some tips on things that we think would help you specifically.
Thank you so much, Brittany, for sharing this insight with us today.
Thanks for having me. It was fun. Do you know what your next topic's going to be?
Well, it depends.